Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 State of the University Address. Thank you all so much for being here this morning. I'm joined on stage to my right by our wonderful ASL interpreter, Brandy Reinhardt. My name is Chase O'Brien, and I have the privilege of serving as president of the Associated Students of the University of Montana, or as many of you know it, ASUM. For those of you who don't know, ASUM is our student government here on campus. And at our core, our job is incredibly simple: to represent the student body day in and day out. But underneath that mission sits a much more widespread goal of ensuring that every single student has access to resources that they need and feel like they belong here on campus. The work that I continue to be the most proud of about ASUM is the work of our 4 student service agencies. Our transportation department helps to ensure that students can get to and from school using our UDash buses. Our Bare Necessities program helps to ensure that students have access to essential resources and basic needs. Our legal department ensures that students have access to support that they may not otherwise be able to afford. And our child care program helps to ensure that students, faculty, and staff parents are able to continue to pursue their education or career path. These services are not just resources for students. They're opportunities for them to stay engaged, stay enrolled, and to keep moving forward. This past spring, we put forth a ballot initiative seeking a $10 fee increase on our ASUM student activity fee. After years of work in the making, countless hours spent canvassing on the Oval, tons of collaboration with our wonderful campus partners, and speaking with hundreds of students, we were able to pass this fee increase. This was also made possible by the highest student voter turnout we've seen in over 7 years. And while this money is incredibly important for our agencies to be able to reach even more students, it's also crucial, and its impact goes much further than that. $11 from every single ASUM student fee now go directly back to our student groups. These student groups, and the 170 of them that our office serves, are essential to creating the community that we all want to see here on campus. And that community, and in fostering it, is one of our biggest goals at ASUM this year. Because in my time at the University of Montana, I have learned that connection is about so much more than just what happens inside of the classroom. It's about having movie nights in your dorm. It's about cramming for finals with your study jam partners. It's about having someone to eat lunch with in the lodge every day. It's competing in a club sport. It's knowing that when things get difficult, you never have to bear them alone. And when students are able to get connected, they're more likely to succeed. And I think that that point of connection is a really fantastic place to welcome and introduce our newest president of the University of Montana. Because since arriving on campus, Dr. Shin has proven that the idea of connection matters to him too. Before coming to Montana, President Shin served in leadership roles at Boise State University, Louisiana State University, Indiana University, and Eastern Michigan University. He himself is a first-generation college student, like many of our students here at UM. And his experience in higher education has proven to him the ability of a university to transform individual lives and entire communities. But while those things tell us a great deal about President Shin's career, I think what stood out to me most, and to many students on this campus, is what he's done since arriving in Missoula. In just his first couple months on campus, President Shin has made a real effort to be present. He's been on campus, he's been meeting with students and faculty, he's been listening, he's been learning what makes this university great and what we can continue to build together. And I think that that mission matters. Because the greatest universities aren't just built in offices. And while those are important, the thing that starts and builds our communities and our campuses are the people like you who make up our campus. And President Shin has proven that he's here to listen and here to grow alongside us. President Shin, on behalf of every single student here at the University of Montana, welcome. We are so excited to have you here, so excited for what we can accomplish together, and so excited to build the next chapter of the university alongside you. So please welcome me in joining the 20th president of the University of Montana, Dr. Jeremiah Shin.
Let's also give Chase a round of applause. Why does the University of Montana exist? It's a simple question, but I'm not sure all of us would answer it in the same way. We talk about enrollments, benchmarks, research expenditures, athletics. We debate budgets. We celebrate milestones. We build buildings. We even make 4,000 hamburgers and 10,000 slices of pizza on this campus every week. True story. But maybe the key to understanding what we're for is to ask an even more fundamental question. What are we here to do? That question matters because public confidence in higher education has declined. Families have questions about our value. Legislators have questions about our value. Employers have questions about our value. And frankly, we ought to be asking those same questions too. Not because we lack confidence in our mission, but because any institution that exists to serve the public should constantly ask whether they are fulfilling that responsibility. There are questions about the value of a UM degree, and we intend to answer them, not with arguments, with proof. I've spent my first 50 days listening, and every conversation is different because people see different things. They expect different things, and they need different things because we do so many different things. We educate, we discover, we create, we heal, we conserve, we compete, we lead. And I'm proud that we do all those things, but they are not our purpose. They are how we fulfill our purpose. Our purpose is simple. We serve students, we serve Montana. Everything else should be in service to that. When we lose sight of it, our priorities are muddled, our resources are spread too thin, decision-making stalls. But when we're clear about our purpose, everything else begins to align behind what matters the most. So this morning, as I begin outlining the state of this university, I'm not going to talk about our budget or our playbook, though you can expect me to do so in other settings. I'm not going to offer a laundry list of our accomplishments, though there are many. I'd rather begin with two students who are living proof of our purpose, because if you want to understand what the University of Montana is for, you first have to understand who it's for. Meet James Straw. James's journey to the University of Montana was anything but linear. He first came to Missoula College after his career in the Marines was cut short by an autoimmune disease. He earned an associate's degree in paramedicine, transferred to the Mountain campus, and immersed himself in physiology and biochemistry. Along the way, his faculty challenged him, research internships opened doors for him, and he was surrounded by people who believed him on this campus. Last spring, James graduated from the University of Montana as a Marshall Scholar. Today, he's pursuing medicine with the hope of advancing treatments for autoimmune diseases and pediatric cancer. A Marine, a paramedic, a transfer student, a University of Montana graduate, a Marshall Scholar, and a future physician. His story reminds us that there is no single front door to the University of Montana. Some students arrive directly from high school. Others begin at Missoula College. Some transfer in from another institution. Some come to us after military service. And some arrive after life takes an unexpected turn. Our responsibility isn't to decide which of those paths work best for us. Our responsibility is to be sure that every path leads somewhere extraordinary, to ensure that every student who walks onto this campus knows that this is their home and feels that everywhere they turn, in the classroom, in the line at the financial aid office, in the bookstore, at the lodge. We talk a lot about getting students to campus. In fact, the most common question that I'm asked by community members and alumni is, how's enrollment looking for the fall? I understand the question, and I really appreciate the interest, but first-year enrollment is an incomplete picture of what we're trying to do here. Move-in day can't be our finish line. That's when the enrollment work begins. During the past decade, our first to second year retention rate has increased by 9 percentage points. To be clear, we're not where we need to be, but that's an encouraging statistic and we're on a solid trajectory. But statistics have a way of making people sound anonymous. 9 percentage points equals hundreds of students who found a reason to stay even when it might have been easier for them not to. Susan Connolly is one of them. Susan grew up in the Blackfeet Nation community in northwestern Idaho. She came to the University of Montana inspired by her mother's work as an infection control officer during the COVID-19 pandemic. She was determined to improve access to quality health care for people like her friends and neighbors in Browning. But when Susan first arrived on campus, she was homesick. There are students on our campus right now who just moved in, wondering if they're going to stay. Susan was one of them. She wondered whether she belonged at the University of Montana. We forget how difficult those first few weeks can be. Leaving home for the first time. Many of our students have spent their entire lives in the same community. And now they're navigating a new city and a new campus, trying to figure out systems and processes on this campus that weren't built for them, that are unintentionally communicating to them that maybe this isn't for you. On top of it all, they might not see a familiar face for days at a time, but they should never find a place on this campus where they fail to see a friendly face. The average student spends about 15 hours a week inside a classroom, and that should always be a supportive, engaging, and enlightening experience. But that leaves more than 150 hours every week for the rest of campus to shape their experience. And every interaction a student has inside the classroom and out of it is either making it more likely that they'll stay or that they'll pack their things and go back to a community that they know loves and cares about them. The sense of belonging that makes students like Susan stay can happen anywhere. It can happen in classrooms, walking past the front desk at a residence hall, in a fitness class at Campus Rec, in a meeting with an academic advisor, during a student organization event, walking across the oval, or standing in line for one of those 4,000 hamburgers. Or even in the Curry Health Center, which is where it happened for Susan. She found her community in the well-being office, where people cared about her, where they showed her that the University of Montana was her home. She found her people, she built confidence, she found purpose, and she stayed. And because she stayed, she flourished. Last spring, Susan, along with her friend, Alana Flatlip, became the university's first Indigenous Udall scholars in 2 decades. Because she was bright, because she worked hard, and because she felt welcome here, she stayed. Another student like Susan moved into Turner Hall this week. She's here, and she's already wondering if she's going to stay. She doesn't need the entire university to rally around her. She just needs someone to smile, someone to answer a question with kindness, someone to remember her name, someone to tell her, "I'm so glad you're here." We get to be that someone for James, for Susan, for the more than 2,000 students who will earn a University of Montana degree this year. 2,000 remarkable stories, 2,000 different journeys, one university helping students become who they're capable of becoming. The thought of 2,000 graduates inspires me, but I can't help but think about the hundreds more students across Montana with the same talent, with the same determination, the same potential, who will never make it to our campus, not because they lack the ability, but because they believe college is financially out of reach. That should concern every single one of us. Which path-breaking discoveries won't happen because the student capable of achieving them was born into a family without the resources to come to UM. Today, only 35% of Montana's high school graduates enroll in the Montana University system. That means that nearly 2/3 choose another path. And there are many reasons for that. Not every student wants to, needs to, or should earn a 4-year degree. But finances should never be the reason a Montana student concludes that UM isn't an option. That's why next week we will launch a major fundraising initiative with our foundation. Our goal is simple. If a talented Montana student wants to earn a degree from this university, they will have the resources to earn a degree from this university. We'll work with our donors, we'll work with our deans, we'll maximize existing scholarship funds, we'll find efficiencies, we'll move barriers wherever we can, because somewhere in Browning, or Broadus, or Butte, or Brady, there's another James, another Susan, another person from Brady. Students whose future and whose communities may be transformed by what happens on this campus. If serving students is truly our purpose, then access isn't a fundraising priority, it's a moral imperative. And it's one of the clearest ways we can fulfill the purpose of this great university. Our student stories are remarkable, and they remind us that when we help UM students become who they're capable of becoming, the stories don't end at commencement. That's just the beginning. Every one of our graduates carries the University of Montana into a community. They carry us into a classroom or a clinic, a courtroom, a lab, a business, or a ranch somewhere across this state. That's why serving students and serving Montana aren't two different purposes. They're one purpose. Because when we serve our students well, Montana benefits. And when Montana is stronger, our alumni benefit for decades after they leave campus. We don't just award degrees, we improve communities. And our purpose isn't simply to understand Montana's challenges, our purpose is to help solve them. Sometimes it looks like life-saving medical research. Sometimes it looks like preserving the arts or our history. And sometimes it looks like cybersecurity. Just a few years ago, Montana faced one of the most acute shortages of cybersecurity professionals in the entire country. It affected school districts, hospitals, mom and pop businesses, agriculture, critical infrastructure. It meant that organizations across our state were increasingly vulnerable to attacks that could disrupt lives and livelihoods. So when our state faced a problem, we had a choice. We could talk about how it should be solved, or we could solve it. We're solving it. In 2024, UM launched Montana's first bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. Complementing the outstanding work at Missoula College, we created another pathway for students to meet an urgent need in our state. We knew the demand was there, and enrollment has far exceeded every expectation when the program was launched. In just a few short years, graduates of this program will be protecting Montana schools and Montana hospitals. They'll be protecting Montana businesses and Montana families. That's what it means to be a flagship university. We prepare students to solve the problems that matter most to the people of our state. That same thing is true in education. Across Montana, hundreds of teaching positions are sitting unfilled right now. Every one of those vacancies represents classrooms and schoolhouses full of kids who deserve an outstanding teacher. Our aim isn't simply to graduate more teachers. Our aim is to be sure that every child in Montana has access to a great education. That's why I believe the Washington Scholars Program will make our state better. Thanks to the extraordinary generosity of Phyllis Washington, future educators can now pursue their calling, knowing that if they choose to teach in Montana, significant portions of their student loans will be repaid. One act of generosity becomes thousands of lives changed by a teacher who chose to stay in this state. That's how impact creates impact. Our responsibility extends to healthcare. For too long, too many families have had to drive too far and wait for too long or simply go without the care that they need. The challenge is especially present in our rural and tribal communities where access to basic care is determined by geography. According to the Montana Department of Labor and Industry, our state needs 67 new physician associates every year just to meet demand. This shortage isn't measured only in vacancies, it's measured in months-long wait for appointments, and parents who have to take an entire day off work just to see a provider, and older Montanans who are driving hundreds of miles for routine care. Our responsibility isn't simply to understand those challenges. Our responsibility is to help solve them. That's why this week marks a historic moment for the University of Montana. We welcomed the inaugural class of students into Montana's first Physician's Associate program. "24 students, 20 of them are Montanans. Many of them grew up in the very communities that need them the most. Within a few short years, many of those students will complete clinical rotations in rural Montana, and many will choose to stay. And because they stay, families across the state will have better access to health care. Communities will be healthier. We don't want our state to be exceptionally good at recruiting healthcare professionals. We want to be good at educating them. People who understand Montana because they are Montana. And that responsibility doesn't end there. Every year, students in our School of Law provide thousands of hours of pro bono legal assistance to Montanans who might otherwise not have access to representation. Accounting students volunteer their time helping members of our community prepare tax returns. Journalism students are reporting from rural communities that have become news deserts, covering school boards, county commissions, and local governments whose stories deserve to be told. History students are preserving the voices of civic leaders whose experiences might otherwise be lost to time. Different disciplines, different approaches, one shared goal: to improve the lives of the people we serve. Being new to campus, I've noticed that there's a version of the University of Montana that exists in people's minds that is smaller than the university we actually are. People try to fit this university into a single box. To some, we're a liberal arts university. To others, we're a forestry school or a journalism school or a business school or a school of the arts. We are all those things, and we are very good at those things. But there's another part of our identity that I want us to be much louder and prouder about. The University of Montana is a great science university. And I don't mean that as an aspiration, I mean it as a fact. We have extraordinary science faculty conducting path-breaking research in chemistry, ecology, health sciences, and biomedicine. Our students are doing science. They're in labs, they're in the field, they're working alongside our faculty, they're asking questions that don't yet have answers, and they're contributing to discoveries that matter to our world. Now, I'm emphasizing that we're a great science university because the world our students are entering will demand both sides of the university. It will demand people who can think critically, who can communicate clearly, understand history, and wrestle with profound ethical questions. And it will demand scientists who can understand increasingly complex systems. We don't have to choose. We are a university of the liberal arts and humanities, and we are a university of the sciences. And in the age of artificial intelligence, I believe that combination becomes even more important. AI can answer a question. It can write a paragraph. It can analyze a data set, but it can't replace human judgment. It can't decide what's worth pursuing. It can't determine what's right. And it cannot tell us what kind of world we should build. Those are human questions that require the habits of mind that a great liberal arts and humanities education develops. And those questions also require scientific discovery. They require people who can understand our natural world, push the boundaries of knowledge, and turn research into something that improves human lives. We need both, and we have both. Consider what happens when our students put that education to work.
Healthcare is changing. So are the careers leading it. UM graduates meet every patient with confidence. In the operating room, our precision matters. We make the difference. We fill rural healthcare needs. In the field, our compassion improves outcomes. When every second counts, we step forward. Careers in healthcare start here.
Across the country, about 40% of applicants to medical school are accepted into medical school. At the University of Montana, more than 74% of our graduates who apply are accepted. It's That is nearly twice the national rate, and that's not an accident. It's evidence that our students are receiving an exceptional scientific education and world-class advising and support. One of those students is Devin Hunt. Devin came to UM and found an academic community that prepared him to compete at the highest levels of medicine and science. Today, he's in the final stretch of medical school at Johns Hopkins University, the Johns Hopkins University. And he's also pursuing a PhD there. He's not simply preparing to become a physician, he's preparing to advance the research that could lead to the next medical breakthrough. And his wife, Dr. Madison Reichelt, whom he met here as an undergraduate, is also completing her residency at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Two Grizzlies, two extraordinary careers, one university that helped launch them, this one. And then there's Josh Beisel. He came to UM because he wanted to understand wildfire and the natural systems that shape our forests. Through the Franke College of Forest and Conservation, he conducted research on whitebark pines and the threats facing one of Montana's most iconic species. His work is now helping land managers think differently about how we protect our forests. That's science in service to Montana. And then there's Deborah Aguakuru, a doctoral student in biomedical and pharmaceutical sciences studying the way cells interact during inflammation and disease. Her research could contribute to better immunotherapies, better cancer treatments, and better ways to understand and treat diseases that affect millions of people. These are examples of what happens when talented people have the opportunity to ask really important questions and the resources and mentorship to pursue the answers. And that's what I want people across Montana to understand. You don't have to leave Montana to do world-class science. You don't have to leave Montana to study at a great research university. You can do that here in Missoula at the University of Montana, and that's something that we should all be proud of. Some people come to know our university in a residence hall. Some come to know us in a research lab or a theater production. Others come to know us because they work with one of our alumni. But many people from across Montana and beyond first come to know us through our outstanding Grizzly athletics program. In fact, I was first introduced to UM more than a decade ago when a proud former Grizz football player moved in across the street from me in another state. Athletics is the front porch of our university, and I'm proud of that, because when people join us on our front porch, we have an opportunity to invite them in through the front door to experience everything else this university has to offer. This fall, hundreds of student athletes are preparing for another season. Soccer enters the year as defending Big Sky Conference champions. Volleyball is in the midst of one of its most successful runs in its history. Our cross-country athletes are pushing the boundaries of human performance while achieving extraordinary things in the classroom. And our football team, well, our football team's doing what Grizzly football has done for generations. It's competing for championships. But Grizzly athletics is about more than what happens between the lines. It's part of the fabric of this state. Every year, Grizzly athletics generates more than $100 million in economic impact across our state. A single home football game brings in millions in non-resident spending to Missoula. Restaurants, hotels, small businesses, jobs. We're a community anchor.
For many in Montana, Grizz football is life. Washington Grizzly Stadium is their second home. It's where students bring the noise, and the north end zone is a weapon. But the Grizz spirit reaches far beyond the stadium. Grizzly athletics adds $100 million to the state's economy every year. Each home game pumps $5 million into our local businesses. Grizz football is more than just a game. It's life, our Montana way.
That's impressive, but the value of Grizzly athletics isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in connection, in pride, in moments when people who have very little in common gather together and cheer for the same team. And it's measured in students who find their way to this university because they first fell in love with the Grizz. That's why I think about athletics as a front porch. The front porch isn't the house, but it's where people first encounter the house. It's where we welcome them in. And when they come through that door, I want them to discover what I've discovered during my first 50 days. The University of Montana is so much bigger than any one thing that we do. It is world-class research. It is exceptional teaching. It's art, it's music, it's public service, it's community. Our responsibility isn't simply to win championships, it's to use the platform of Grizzly athletics to strengthen the entire University of Montana and the communities that we serve. That's why I'm so proud to be a Grizzly. So I ask again, why does the University of Montana exist? After 50 days of listening, I'm more convinced that the answer is not found in any one program or college or building. It's found in our purpose. We exist to serve students. We exist to serve Montana. And if that's our purpose, then we have an obligation to keep becoming the university our students and our state need us to be. That means we will have to change. Some of the work we do today will not be the ways that we work tomorrow. Some of the programs that we offer will evolve. Priorities will change, assumptions will be challenged, and that's okay. Change doesn't mean that what came before was wrong. The work of generations got us here. We honor that work not by preserving everything exactly as it is, but by building on it. Because the world our students are entering is changing. Technology is changing. Work is changing. Montana is changing. And our students, they're changing too. We cannot be content with a university built for the world that our students are leaving behind. Our students deserve better than an institution that asks them to adapt to us. We need to adapt to the world that they're entering, and we will. But there's one thing that will not change, our commitment to those students. And I want to come back to Susan for a moment, because somewhere in Turner Hall this week, there's that student that's wondering if she made the right decision. She might already be homesick. She might be overwhelmed. She might be wondering whether she belongs here. And again, she doesn't need the entire University of Montana to solve every problem for her. She just needs somebody to notice, somebody to smile, somebody to answer the question she's too embarrassed to ask, somebody to take the time to walk her across campus rather than pointing in the general direction of a faraway building, someone to make it very clear to her that we want her here. That's not somebody else's job, that's my job. That's your job. And I want us to think about that responsibility differently. We don't get credit for doing our jobs well. Our students expect us to do our jobs well. But making them feel welcome, making them feel like they belong here, that's the work that they're going to remember. Every interaction matters. Every conversation matters. Every time we choose patience over frustration, curiosity over assumption, kindness over our own convenience. Every time we're shaping a student's experience at this university, and we get to do that. We get to do this work. We get to help a young person who doesn't yet know what they're capable of discover that she can do extraordinary things. We get to be a university that changes lives. We get to serve Montana, and we get to do it together. For 133 years, people have built this university for the students that came after them. They taught here. They discovered here. They created here. They served here. They cheered here. They opened doors for students that they would never meet. And now it's our turn. It's our turn to make this university stronger. Our turn to make this university easier for students to navigate. Our turn to make it more welcoming. Our turn to be sure that a student can arrive here from Browning or Broadus or Butte or Brady and know that there is a place for them here. Our turn to make sure that Montana can look to its flagship university when it needs a teacher, a PA, a cybersecurity professional, a scientist, a journalist, a lawyer, a leader. Our turn to make sure that when the world asks what a public university is worth, we don't have to argue. We can just point. Point to James. Point to the teachers in Montana classrooms. Point to the healthcare providers in our rural communities. Point to the discoveries in our labs. Point to the thousands of graduates who are carrying what they learned here into the communities across our state and beyond. That's the proof. So why does the University of Montana exist? It exists because Montana needs a university that believes in its people, a university that believes in the potential of its students, a university willing to change with the world without losing sight of what makes it uniquely Montana, a university that doesn't simply prepare people to make a living but prepares them to make a difference, a university that doesn't simply award degrees but improves communities. That is our purpose, and everything else is in service to it. There is nothing in the world I'd rather be doing than this work. Nothing. I am incredibly proud to be your president. I'm proud to serve our students. I'm proud of what our alumni are doing in our communities. I'm proud to steward this university for people across Montana who believe deeply in it. And I'm also grateful that I get to do this work with you. We get to do this. We get to do this. It's an amazing thing, and it matters. Let's get to work. Thank you.